Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Terrestrial Material, where we talk about the material us terrestrials are interested in. This is episode 21. We're calling it Grim Times. But we do have a very special guest tonight. A 20-plus year musician, Matt MacDonald from The Classic Crime, joins us tonight. Now, of course, we do want to talk about their latest album, Grim Age. It's very good. I definitely recommend you picking it up and checking it out. But we also wanted to talk about the AI influence, the changing of times, UFOs, the normal things that we talk on Terrestrial Material. He has a lot of really great takes. It's a very interesting conversation. I think you'll enjoy. Let's get right over to it. French, how you doing? Matt, how you doing tonight?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming. I mean, we had a little bit of a nightmare with getting collab cam and everything put together, but hey, you know, perseverance, we press on, you know?
We will survive. The technological overlords haven't stopped us yet.
No, they're trying, and we got it the worst. You know, the rumor is the UFO guys, they're always messing with our stuff, or they're shutting us offline, or
right.
you know,
EMF and 5G.
Right. This has been the biggest issue that we ever had so far, but I don't know. Like I said, we press on. But listen, the album came out, Grim Age, in March, and if we had the podcast going in March, we would have had you on earlier. I know we're a little bit late here to the promo tour, but we want to see what we can do for it. I guess my first question is, I mean, obviously, I like the album, Matt. I've listened to your guys' stuff for 15 years. I went to a couple of your shows back in 2008, 2009. We're in Michigan. And so I've been a really long time fan, man. Your writing is incredible. I'm trying not to fangirl too much for a lot of this, but hey, what has to be said, what has to be said. But when you talk about AI, and this is really what we kind of wanted to bring you on tonight to talk about, because I heard that the album art for Grim Age is actually AI generated. Is that correct?
Yeah. The artist used Midjourney, I believe, and some different kind of rendering stuff. But yeah, it was actually a throwaway album art. It was supposed to be for a single, and we've been working like over months to get the album art, and we were back and forth for months. And then he was like, "Hey, I'm going to generate some art for these singles."
Right.
And we saw the single art for one of the singles, and we're like, that's the cover. And he's like, "Shut up, dude. No way." Like, we've been working so hard on this, like so much energy and vision going into trying to make it. And I was kind of on the album art that we'd been working on. And then when Robbie and the band saw the single art, he's like, "That's it. That's the cover, man. It's got everything." And we broke down all the pieces of it, and we're like, yeah, it really has all the metaphors that we would want in it. And it was totally accidental using AI. So
Yeah,
it's very cool looking. I think it fits honestly perfectly for like the album and everything.
thank you.
Yeah, are you still happy with it?
Yeah, we can't take
right.
credit.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get to that. But I mean, are you still happy with it, or do you ever look back on the old art and say, maybe we should have went with what we had before?
No, I'm happy with it. It all kind of locked into place because topically the album, you know, just lyrically and stuff, is dealing with kind of the changing of times and the encroachment of technology on all of our lives, and that interplay between macro and micro and technological and biological, and how we're sort of merging with technology now. And it just made sense, like, oh yeah, why wouldn't we? Like, the whole album's about this merge, consensual or not, and whether or not we are aware of what's going on. And it just made sense to have the album art be part of the whole story, you know, be it like, this is the merge, like, here's album art that we wrote, like, you know, 20 words into a generator, and it generated it for us.
Do you remember what the prompt was?
I can't remember the prompt because the artist, I was feeding him, you know, lines, and he was tuning it because he had the Midjourney subscription. So.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Were you feeding him like lyrics from the album at all?
No, I was feeding him like big concepts, sort of like metaphorical stuff, like almost like Nick Land poetry. I don't know if you know about Land and his philosophy, but he predicted a lot of this stuff in the 90s. as far as our journey into like accelerating beyond the pace that we can actually keep up with biologically.
Right.
And so I was like, I was reading, I can't remember the piece by Land, but it was beautiful and dreadful and horrifying. And so I was like just feeding him lines from that and being like, try this.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I heard you mention on other podcasts too, where they were asking you, well, isn't it kind of hypocritical that, you know, you were talking about AI and how that interacts with art, and you're typing into a machine and it's spitting this out. And just, I'm paraphrasing
Yeah.
you a little bit, but you said, hey, you know, this is still technically art because it's my thought, it's my feeling, it's my prompt for graphic design. But what about,
Sure.
what about the other side of that? What about lyrically though? How would you feel
Yeah.
if someone made a band and started putting in prompts and got songs put out? Would you still feel like that's art, or would you feel like, you're cheating here a little bit?
I mean, to some extent, all art is theft. In like we are just regurgitating what we've heard and reworking it, and we're all remixers in some sense. Besides the perspective and the point of view, so you can go from like a kinesthetic or aesthetic perspective and go, okay, this sounds like, here's a genre, here's all the people that came before in the genre, now we're going to add something
Yeah.
to the genre. But to me, that's not necessary. I mean, it can be artistic, but I think art always has a singular perspective, and that perspective ultimately flows from an individual. And as long as the artist is being true to themselves about what they actually are experiencing and feeling and thinking in the moment, it's going to be colored by that artist. And it might be influenced by the ones that came before, but it's going to be a unique expression of an emotion in that moment. And I think that's what art is, right?
Yeah.
As far as like me caring if other people knock us off, I'm kind of into a little bit post authorship, which is a little bit accelerationist, which is like this whole idea of and this gets way down to like into philosophy and like libertarian and property rights and stuff. It's like, what do we own as far as IP? Everything's online. We've been sort of plundered of all of our information
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
right? And then that's been used to sell us stuff, and to best tweak these algorithms to keep our attention for longer and longer. The idea that someone would get mad now seems a little like beyond, like, yeah, 20, 30 years ago, sure, like if someone knocked you off, like there wasn't this massive blending of everything and information being so free. And so
Yeah.
now it's like if someone like rips off something, I kind of would feel more honored than hurt by it,
That's an
because
interesting take.
it's not like I'm making any money on it anyway. So it's like
No,
they're
I
not
know
going
what
to
you mean.
they're not going to threaten my business, I'm fine with it. Go make fans. Maybe they find their way to us eventually. Who knows?
All right.
Well, like, what do you see as far as like advantages? I mean, I'm not a songwriter, man. I'm definitely, nowhere on a level of someone like yourself, in my opinion. But like, where do you see, as far as songwriting is concerned, the advantages with AI?
Well, you know what they say? They say AI is coming for that too. And everyone thought, when AlphaGo beat the Go player, and the chess one beat the grandmaster in chess. Like everyone thought, well, that's fine. That's all logic, right? And computers are good at logic, but computers are not good at art. And
Yeah.
and now they're making art. Is it good? Is it great? No, but like it's exponential how fast these things grow. I'm still partial to human beings liking human art. I think that will always have a role and a place, and I don't think we're going to be replaced by AI art that anybody can generate using. Say you're not a songwriter, but you have a good idea, and you know what genres you want to train your Chat GPT or whatever on, and you give it all this source data, and it pulls from all of that, and it gives you, and it understands what makes a hit song historically because it's analyzed 10,000 hits over the last 100 years, and it knows
Right.
this is what people like, and it spits you out a hit song. I think that's possible, and that's coming. But But what people really like about the artists they really love is that unique personal perspective. Now, probably AI could be trained on all the data that I've put out over the years. I've released, over 100 songs over 20 years. You could probably train it and write a new classic crime song or vocal few song or one of, anything I've worked on. You could probably do it. But it would be derivative.
Yeah.
Like what's the new thing that is going to be brought? I mean, it's not going to be me now. It's going to be me then, right? There's something like about the present moment with art that speaks to the present moment in like sort of the collective unconsciousness of everybody. But then again, maybe they train it on that. Maybe they keep refining it until it really does sound like me now. And then
Right.
what am I doing?
I mean, could you use it as an advantage in the sense of if you were to hit a writer's block situation, could you say, hey, write it what a new classic crime song might think or might sound like, and then you can kind of get an idea of where to go. It kind of gives you a little bit of inspiration. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that could be a good first, like, because honestly, sometimes if I'm stuck, I don't listen to music that often. I actually don't play music that often. But when it's time, I'm sort of a perennial creator. I'll create seasonally. But when it's time, sometimes I will go back and listen to the last thing I did and go, where can I go from there? So in some way it can be kind of like that. It's like, what would the classic crime do? And much of art is saying no. It's saying, ugh, I'm not doing that again. Or it's like killing your darlings. It's cutting things out. And that gives you a direction to go because you know what you're not going to do. Sometimes, the realm of possibilities is like the horizon is just too big. It's too wide. And you can kind of find a general direction by just saying, not that, not that, not that, not that, and winnowing it down. So yeah, I would say maybe AI could be good for that, for me, for songwriting. But ultimately I don't do it to get a hit, or to like game the system so I can be famous or whatever. I do it to express myself. And
Yeah.
in expressing myself, other people can relate to that, have some expression for their own feelings if they relate to that. And so it's a net positive, it's a benefit. But it's not why I do it. I don't do it because it's a benefit to other people. I do it because it's a benefit to me. So whether or not I use AI to like increase the output, the reason I'm still doing it is to express myself. And I would always start, trying to be true as an artist to myself. I would always start with my own like idea, my own, feelings and emotions and perspective in a moment.
Do you think eventually, like, one day we will have like AI bands? You think that
Sure.
might be a possibility?
I
Do you
mean, it's
feel like that
probably
would
already
like,
here.
yeah, I guess so. Do you feel like that would like strip like the expressionism away from it and kind of like create more of like a competitive like writing process for bands to where eventually it'll get to the point where it's like, now I'm competing with this AI when I used to just write about, feelings and I want other people to connect with those feelings. You think people start competing with each other more like for writing music and stuff and try to see who can beat the AI and other people to get like a big hit?
Yeah, I mean, people always want attention and fame and money. And so if there's a attention and fame and money, if those things are in that, and I'm sure they will be, then people will do that. Uh, I mean, it's kind of like when everything went electronic. Like it started in the 80s, and like all like the 70s, like jam bandy, real musicians were like, what are these people playing keyboards, with these
Yeah.
synths and it's not real. But that developed into EDM, which is like,
Yeah.
these guys aren't even playing any of it. It's all they click it together with a mouse and then they hit the space bar on stage and they're a massive musical act doing
Huge. Yeah.
arenas and people, what we've seen is just people just don't care. They just want that music. So I think if AI generates good enough music, that is going to move mass amounts of people, and it's already, I mean, it's already in our psychology. It already understands what we want. So I don't see any daylight between it where it is now and it generating something that it has mass appeal for audiences. Um, so I just think it's probably inevitable that like the next Taylor Swift is AI generated.
Well, it's crazy, right? Because like there's all these other artists that like come across like a song by them, but it's not them. It's somebody that like
Yeah.
did it all AI, and they're like, I don't know whether I hate this or if like I enjoy it because like
Hmm.
it's something else that people like that they can connect to, even though it's not like my personal expression at that point in time. It's crazy to think about.
Well, and if it stays decentralized, you think about your Spotify playlist, and it's like it's an algorithm that's like suggesting to you new bands or new songs you haven't heard before based on what you've already heard. So it's just a recommendation algorithm, but those things get so good. They just know what you're going to like. Now
Yeah.
imagine if it could actually create for you a brand new song that no one's ever heard based off of what you already liked and like put it all together. Maybe find some things that haven't been put together and put it together. It could blow your mind personally, and it could come from no one specific. I mean, that's probably what Spotify will end up being is a brand new AI generating song machine, so that they don't have to pay any royalties to the artist,
That's a
right?
good point too. Yeah, I didn't think
I
about
mean,
that.
100% they're working on this right now. 100% they're working on it. So, I mean, that's going to happen. Just a matter of time.
Yeah. Yeah. So embrace it, right? I mean, is that kind of the way that you're looking at it at this point?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do to stop any of it. So, like, what's the point? I'm not mad about it. What am I going to do? I'm probably going to write some more songs. I'll probably put them out for the people who care about them. Um, you know, to some extent, it's over, and that's freeing. We lost. Like, but it's okay because artists have been losing. Artists have been losing since the dawn of artistry. Since we figured out how to store enough food so that one guy could sit there and write songs, like they've been losing. They've been exploited. There's always been a middleman that's like, hey, village over. If we do these songs over there, you cut me in, I could, collect some coin, and that's just how it's always been. So, whether it was the labels and like radio, program directors and um, you know Spotify or streaming or Apple or iTunes. Like I've been through several of these phases where we went from like CDs, like we shipped CDs, um, and like to get on a label and ship your CDs all over the country was like a big thing because you needed the distribution. And we
Right.
moved from that to digital, and everybody was doing MP3s, and Apple kind of came in as a middleman and being like, hey, let's get people off of LimeWire and
Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
and Pirate Bay or whatever, and let's build an Apple store that uses our products, and then we can get you some money. And we actually made a little bit of money in that gap between CDs and streaming, just on the MP3 side. But now we're all into streaming, and all that's over. And the money that we started to see in streaming, which was all about marketing money, it was like hype. Look how much we're paying artists. That's just slowly getting chipped away over time because that's what middlemen do. But I'm hopeful because artists survive because people want their stuff. So if it's not tenable, I believe in the free market. If it's not tenable for artists to constantly be making stuff and getting screwed out of money on streaming, people will come around those artists on different platforms, in different ways, decentralized ways, and support them. I believe that that'll be the case, unless AI gets so good that everyone just abandons all the art that they used to like and they just switch to AI.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
weird because I've always been like a physical like copy holder for a lot of bands that I like and listen to. Like I've always been like one of the people that always buy a CD from a band that I've listened to for however many years and stuff like that. And I notice one of the big things with like streaming is like you're able to stream like those lossless files and stuff like that. And this is just something like my personal preference that I like too is like you have like streaming and it's all lossless and everything, and then you have like MP3s and CDs and stuff, and it's like I see what you're saying about like the sales and stuff, and you have just that one gap, and now people are just streaming and everything, and sales dropping and everything. But like for me personally, still like like if a band puts out even like a vinyl, because that's still like that's one of the most oldest forms of like lossless, essentially, right? You know, the analog. Right? So like band has vinyl, like me personally, like I'm still on board no matter what happens, whatever AI does, whatever streaming brings forth, like I'm still gonna buy that physical copy, because I think it also adds to like the personal connection that you have with like a band and stuff, and like their writing process and everything. It's like, oh cool, man, like I really enjoy this. I want something physical that I can have to remind me of like, you know, how much I did enjoy this, or enjoyed it as I move on, you know, once the band moves on and creates more things.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I still buy stuff just to support, and then I also have vinyl. Vinyl's interesting though because it's had this massive resurgence, and so there's like a lot of demand on like the few manufacturing plants that are around the globe, and so it's actually pretty expensive to make. The markup's not very good for bands. Like if you want to make a really nice vinyl, like it can be like $15 a unit. So if you get 1,000 units, it's like 15 grand, you know, which is a good chunk of money for like a small band to do. Like you're pressing 1,000. It's not like you're huge, but you know you can sell 1,000.
Right.
And so it's $15,000 up front. And then what can you sell them for? Well, you have these massive companies that are able to print more bulk, so they can get the price down low. So then everyone's like, well, it's $25 a vinyl. It's like, well, after it's all said and done, you know, the artist is, you can make $10,000, but that's not enough to like feed your family for 6 months. So
yeah, especially now, yeah.
You know, So I mean, that's just me complaining that I'm small, maybe, I guess. But you know, like if I sold 20,000 of them, that could be something. But you got to be kind of big, and it's really hard in this atomized world where everyone's kind of in their own bubbles online, and unless you sort of play within that bubble, you're not going to get the streams, you're not going to get the editorial playlists on Spotify and streaming services. So it's really hard because everything's all about categories now.
Algorithm.
And if you're an artist and you don't want to be fit into any category, it becomes difficult to sort of make money on what the system is now.
I mean, it's same thing with YouTube. I mean, in Twitch especially, Twitch is so hard to try to go anywhere from that platform. I mean, the discoverability is just you're in a sea of 1,000 people or millions of people, and there's nowhere to like really filter you out and get you to the top. And that's why originally when we started doing the podcast, and we had talked about, you know, Twitch and things because we had been there before, but the reality of it is YouTube actually gives you a chance, no matter what your size is, to get your video out and push it around and try to build. But I mean, to kind of get a little bit back towards the album, if you don't mind, I mean, the last 3 years, Matt, have been such a roller coaster. Was there like a moment that really inspired the album for you at this point?
Well, you know, I'm getting older. You know, I just turned 40 this past year, and there's less and less to write about, honestly. Like I've written a lot of the same songs from different perspectives over time, but like about the same topic. A lot of them are about getting older, you know? So it's hard to find material. Like, what am I writing about now? What is going on now? And I've always been pretty interpersonal about it. Like I'm expressing myself and how I'm feeling in this moment, this stage of my life. But you know, with what went on in the last 4 years, we're 4 years since 2020.
I can't believe it either.
I mean, you could go back to 2016 when kind of the world's brain broke when Trump got elected, but like it's been chaos for a while. And I watched this Adam Curtis documentary. He's a really good documentarian. I would consider him an artist, like in the purest form of it. His bigger one recently was called Hypernormalization, but he released during the pandemic, it came out, it was called Can't Get You Out of My Head. And it was sort of about Western individualism versus like Eastern collectivism and like the trade-offs of both of those societies. And he does it very even-handedly. But how our culture is fundamentally broken in some way, divorced from what sort of biologically we need to thrive, with loneliness and isolation in the suburbs and the tearing down of institutions that really gave us meaning and purpose and belonging. Anyways, he said something in that documentary, I Can't Get You Out of My Head by Adam Curtis. You should watch it. It's like 4 parts. That no one's captured the feeling of right now. That it's like really hard for artists to capture the feeling of right now because it's all so fractured. There's just so many things going on at so many levels, and like our brains can't process it. And an artist's job is sometimes to get into the minutia of that, which I think we all do, but to get a bird's eye sort of like what is going on and what are the main themes. And so I thought about that for a while because I was like, how would I capture the feeling of right now? We're in COVID lockdown at the time, and like all of our institutions are failing us in some way. The news is out of control. We've become extremely tribal. People are canceling everybody left and right for misinformation and disinformation and malinformation. Right. Malinformation is the funniest one. That's true information that we don't like. That's malinformation. So I can't believe, like, I think the CDC or somebody, the WHO or somebody posted that. They literally posted it on their website. Malinformation is information, true information we don't like. Anyways, or that hurts the narrative. But like, so all this is going on, and our lives are upended. And I was like, well, that's what I can write about. That's not something I've written about before. I don't generally like point my artistic gaze out to culture and say like I'm going to comment on everything out here. And so in that sense, I mean, it wasn't political. I kind of like.
I didn't get this. I didn't get that as a sense. I didn't get a sense of political from it. I didn't know.
And I don't think politics has a place in the punk rock scene. Might hate me for this, but I don't think it has a place in music, in art. I think all politics is just propaganda, and propaganda is lying, and lying shouldn't be in art. I mean, express yourself however you want to express yourself, but if you're going to pick some stupid side on some like really low level parallel, then it just means that you're not like, as an artist, you should be floating way above all that. So I mean political in a sense of like the body politic of people.
Yeah.
Culturally, what was going on. And so that the record sort of expresses some of the rage and some of the angst and some of the being fed up with the bullshit of it all, and in hopes to obviously express the feeling of right now for me, so that hopefully other people can hear that and be like, yeah, that's exactly how I felt, or close to it, so that we can have some sort of shared some sort of community about it, or understanding, I guess. I don't know. But
no, I agree. That's Matt and I were talking because I honestly like haven't really listened to you guys for that long. Matt actually introduced me to you guys like a couple months ago, the Silver Cord album, and then he's like, hey, they just put out this new album, and I was like, oh, okay. And I listened to it, and I was like, oh, I actually really enjoy the writing and stuff like that, because there's a lot of songs that are easy to connect with. And so I was like, wow, that's very cool. And I wonder if a lot of other people, who do kind of have like an artistic like mindset and stuff like that, like connect and like, get the same sense of feeling as like everybody else that, listens to the album and stuff.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, like I said, it's never like, I mean, what I said before maybe sounded like it was like my intent. I was truly as lost as anybody during that period. Like, I didn't know what I felt, but I often don't know what I feel until I say it, or if I sing it. So it was like sort of cathartic in a way. Like, it was just a picture of of what I was going through at the time.
Well,
Trying to make sense,
we're
trying to
heading
make sense of
somewhere though,
things.
Matt. Right? I mean, do you feel like we're heading somewhere? I do. I think
Yeah.
something's gonna give at some
Hmm.
point. I mean, this tug of war between not only just people in general, but this tug of war between humanity and AI, and you know, I know Elon Musk is big on this Neuralink, and there's
Hmm.
all of these integrations that are coming that way. I mean, there's a lot of people that, you know, depending on your faith or what religion you are, people think that's really satanic. I mean, to put something in your body like that. There's a lot of people that are out there that feel that
Sure.
way.
I mean,
And we're, yeah,
the
go ahead.
Amish would think, our use of electronics or electricity is satanic. Luddites.
Yeah.
There's always so that I have a number of different ways to answer that. Technology has always come with fear, and there's always been a backlash to it. Like, I remember reading these old newspapers from when we finally made cross country railroads, and there were these opinion pieces essentially saying that this is going to destroy our culture, because now when you go visit your aunt or your family or your friend in Houston or whatever, you don't have to stay a fortnight and really get to know them. I think that's like 2 weeks or something. They're
Yeah.
using this old
Yeah.
language, right?
Yeah.
Language we don't use anymore because
Right.
Not
it's
at
not
all.
relevant to our culture, right? But you don't have to stay and really kind of connect. You can just stop in for the afternoon or one night or a weekend, and you can leave because the train's there. And how this is going to just decimate our culture. And were they right? Yes, it did. It decimated the whole stay for a fortnight culture.
Sure did.
you know,
Well, yeah, I mean,
and then
and even more
go
than
ahead.
that, I mean, like, you know, just for me, for instance, every Friday I go on I do another podcast where we talk about UFOs. I can't get enough of it, I guess. And we'll get to a little bit of UFOs a little bit later, by the way. You're not going to get out of here without talking a little bit about it with us.
All right.
But here's the thing. You know, they're in the UK, and so I talk to people every Friday from the UK, and then on most Fridays and Saturdays I also play Destiny 2 with a guy in Amsterdam, and we play every week. And so it's interesting that I interact with people on a weekly basis all the time, all over the
Mm-hmm.
world. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just like, oh, well, you could do that with the internet for a while, but it's like it's a weekly basis, man. I know these people and talk to these people as much as I do anyone
Mm-hmm.
next to me.
Yeah.
That's never been a thing until now. Not that much contact. How do you feel about that? I mean, what's your thought?
Well, yeah. I mean, definitely culture is changing. I mean, it's already rewiring our brain. All of this technology is rewiring our brain, and yes, it's happened over history. When the daily paper got released, there was editorials about how now that there's a daily paper, people ride the train to work and they're just behind this wall of paper and they're not communicating with each other like they. And before, the trains were a problem, but now the trains were a social thing, and it was the fabric of our society is being torn apart by these walls of paper that everyone was reading on the train. Um, it's the same thing with every advance, and the internet is the biggest thing. It's the thing that is like the printing press, which was followed by what was like the 40 years war, the Reformation, the Catholics and the Protestants, and all that crap going on. I mean, it was chaos after people could print little Bibles for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, and the internet is like, now people can print anything they want all over the world, and share information that way. And there's no arbiter. And you see these massive forces in the world trying to control it all the time because they're like, this is scary. And yeah, it is. It creates chaos, and chaos isn't good for business. Um, but yeah, it's definitely going somewhere. I tend to be optimistic about it. Like, we are, it, on one hand, it's been very centralized up to this point. There was a period in the 90s when the internet was decentralized. It was wild. I don't know if you guys were alive and on the internet then, but it was kind of cool on these forums. Web one, uh, and then it became very centralized with these massive tech companies like Google and Facebook and social media companies. Um, and they became the aggregators for like everybody like coming to the internet. They go to that one website, and then they had a lot of control. But what we're seeing now is sort of a backlash to the centralization, because we don't like these algorithms controlling everything we see. We don't like how they're rewiring our brains. Like, and the incentives of these algorithms are literally just to give you the thing next that is going to keep your attention. That's the only incentive.
Right.
It has no care in the world if you're happier after, or if your relationships are better, or if you feel satisfied. Everything is all just designed to keep your attention. And there's a bunch of negative externalities with that one perverse incentive, because we live in the attention economy. So people are getting fed up with centralized internet, and then enter blockchain and decentralized. And so now we have all this money pouring in. Bitcoin ETF just went public on the stock exchange now. So now you can trade spot ETFs of Bitcoin. So there's kind of a mass adoption happening out of the blockchain technology to try to decentralize everything. We can't have the banks in control. We can't have, BlackRock and Vanguard and whatever all in control. We have to have our own control. So I think there's a pendulum swinging a little bit, and I kind of believe in this fourth turning hypothesis, where it's like, this is sort of winter. It's been bad and it might get worse, but after winter comes spring. And so I'm kind of an optimist in that sense. I think, I bet on people. I think individuals will organize and create communities and spaces and movements around things that we care about. And we won't just all get stuck down this rabbit hole of like algorithm dictated consumer, attention prison that we're all in. There's a backlash to that, just like the Luddites and the Amish,
Yeah, it gets very toxic. And like, I think like the more like time you spend on it without like realizing, like, let's say like Twitter or like Facebook or any of that, it's like, it's not toxic at first. And then it's like your attention's so drawn to it. And then like, if you're able to like break your attention and look at it as like a distraction, it's like, then I think you finally notice like, man, this shit's like kind of pretty toxic and like crazy, but it's like, it doesn't matter, because in the end, it's just like, oh, back on it again.
You can sit there for an hour getting tiny dopamine hits.
Right.
And then afterwards, you're totally dopamine depleted. So you're actually depressed afterwards because you wasted time. You sat there. You weren't working. You weren't working out or doing things that like made humans happy for hundreds of thousands of years,
Right.
So our biology hasn't caught up to the technology, and the technology is a runaway train. It's speeding off.
It's never going to stop. That's humanity, though, Matt. I mean, humanity is just progression. I think that's a good thing that I like what Rogan said. 4 years ago, he did a podcast with Bob Lazar, and he was talking about how when you look at humanity, we're the only creature that really just has to always progress. We have a phone. It's great. It does everything we need, but we need it to do it 5 times faster, and we needed to do it yesterday. And so we're going to keep doing that. We'll never stop. Bees don't make a better beehive. They just keep making the same beehive, But there's something about us.
Hold on. Yeah. Bees mastered the beehive.
Okay, I'm with that. Okay.
Over billions of years, and we really like bees for doing that, right? Like, it's a great service. But yes, no, we're constantly changing and inventing and adapting, and that was really what made us the apex species of the planet, was our ability to adapt to new and changing climates and situations and dangers. We always adapted, and so we have this. Everybody who survived, that long ago, millions of years, potentially our ancestors, right? So everybody who survived that long survived because they had this desperate need to innovate, to change, to constantly be searching for dangers in the future and on the horizon, and adapt. And so that's what's in our genes now. That's what's left over, and that's what we're doing with technology. The problem is none of us really consented to having our brains rewired. And like Elon said on a podcast, we're already cyborgs. This is already a part of me.
Yeah.
People scared of Neuralink are scrolling TikTok 6 hours a day. It's like,
it's true.
You're already linked up. It's already rewired your whole brain. It's so entertaining that you don't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
And you didn't consent to it. at least with Neuralink, you can consent, right? You know, assuming they don't force it on
Supposedly.
you.
Yeah.
Assuming they don't. Well, the problem is if people get it and it's so good, it's like having a phone, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a phone, you're behind. You're
Yeah.
just left behind. And I remember I had a friend for years. He still doesn't have a smartphone. He's a fireman. I think he had a flip phone, but then he like got rid of it because he didn't like it. And I was like, he was the happiest guy I knew. Like
They always
Yeah.
are.
they always are. But he couldn't relate on so many things because my brain is consuming social media on topics I care about all the time. And on those topics, I care about fast moving topics too. So I care about like AI, I care about crypto, I care about things that like one day in that space is like 1,000 days in like traditional spaces. Like
Yeah.
so much goes on, you know? And so I'm so far down rabbit holes, and I'm sure you guys are with like UFO stuff and disclosure
Sure.
and stuff.
Sure.
Like you're so far
Everything.
down rabbit holes. If you meet your friend that's like, "What? Come on, UFOs."
I know. I
Like you
know.
have
All
to
the
I
you have to
know.
time.
go you have to go all the way back to the beginning, and like they just don't have the time for it. So
No.
there's a disconnect, and you don't feel like you can really connect with those people. So if Neuralink's anything like that, like if you guys both get Neuralink and you're like super charged up, and I'm your friend and I see you, I'm gonna be like, I got to get on their level because like I'm being
Yeah.
left behind here, you know?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I,
there's like
I
a
agree.
social stigma behind it, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
who's the loser in the corner?
yeah.
It doesn't have Neuralink.
Look
Like,
at this.
it's just
Look at this
another
pleb over
dividing
here.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, the government will give it to you for free. Come on, you friggin' pleb. Stop
Well,
having
that
100 and stop having 110 IQ and get 200 like us.
Yeah, yeah, and that I mean that's what'll happen. I mean, right? You can get a phone from the government essentially at this point, if I'm right. I
Sure.
mean, so I mean, it'll be something that they kind of get out there to everybody. What are your thoughts? Maybe change a little bit of the gears here. What are your thoughts on simulation theory? What do you think about when you look at AI? So I guess we're not really changing too much of gears. When you think about that progression and what could be created, I mean, they're saying the next few chat GPTs, Matt, could be 3,000 to 6,000 times as smart as a human. If we
Yeah.
extrapolate that over 20 years, what's to say that that's not a possibility? You know, that we're in some
Yeah.
form of a simulation at that point. What are your thoughts? Have you looked at that at all?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I follow it pretty closely on Twitter, and I follow like the um, EAC movement, the effective accelerationists, um, which were kind of born in reaction to the effective altruists. There's all these movements that are happening all the time to respond to the speed of technological growth. Because some people, they would be the AI safety people. They're considered doomers by the accelerationists. They want to slow down. They want to decelerate because they want safety. And then you have these other people over here that want speed, and decentralization because that's how we. And so there's almost like these religious cults springing up all over the place about this stuff. And some of it is born out of this idea that we are birthing a god with AGI. Um, so uh, I don't know if that's the case, but like it's easy to think ahead and go, okay, if we do give birth to a sentient being that is 10,000 times smarter than the smartest human, that could solve any problem, that could even like understand, unify physics and quantum physics and everything, and even create in some way using black holes or whatever, like new, like potentially, right? You just keep going up that trajectory. If it's a parabolic curve and it goes straight up, like it seems like it's a matter of time before it can create a new dimension or create a simulation or whatever. And so in that sense, like, like it's possible that this has happened before. you know, like I guess, right?
Right.
It definitely seems like since 2016, the memes around simulation theory have become pretty powerful. Like, what
Yeah.
the hell's going on? Like, it's almost like we had simulation janitors that like left. They left. They stopped cleaning up the bugs,
Right.
And now just like only the funniest and
I
worst stuff
know.
happens. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there's supposed to be multiple timelines. There's supposed to be multiple dimensions. We have evidence, at least in math, that those things can exist. Um, we don't know what's inside a black hole.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of potential. But like the thing is, you're not going to get anywhere worrying about whether or not we're in a simulation. I don't think.
Right.
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
mean,
No, I'm not.
we're at the layer, like there's like the micro, which is quantum physics, which is crazy, a lot of spooky action, not
Yeah.
quite sure, you know, it kind of deals with perception in some way, like the slit experiment with the wave and particle. And then it's weird down there. And then we have our level, which is totally time oriented. Um, we live and we breathe and we see and we taste and we touch and we talk and we, you know, that's the level that human life and all of life that we see occurs on. And then you have this macro, like distances we can't even fathom, you know, power and energy we can't even fathom, empty space we can't even fathom. And so it's like you can focus on like the tiny things or the macro things, but like you're living in this middle realm, you know, Middle Earth,
Yeah.
and there's shit to do. We have to make sure we don't blow ourselves up, you know.
Right.
So yeah, don't worry too much about it.
Yeah. Well, what about? I guess we got to talk aliens, Matt. There's no way we can't talk a little bit about that. I have a few questions for you, man. Were you ever interested in the topic UFOs, aliens, as a kid? At any point in your life, did you ever pull out a book or see a video of Stephen Greer talk about it, or any of the high profile UFO guys?
Yeah, I never like got into it, but like I remember watching like Sightings, which was like a Canadian um like uh paranormal show as a kid, and being like terrified of like spirits and ghosts, and but they did some alien stuff. I watched a really scary documentary, which is based off of at least a true story of that somebody told, called Fire in the Sky, when I was a kid. I don't know if you ever seen
Yeah,
that.
Travis
Oh
Walton.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scared the shit out of me.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, yeah, still same.
Yeah.
Like I grew up pretty fundamentalist religious. Like we didn't have a TV in our house, and like I remember we got a VCR that we connected to the computer, and my brother got it from his friend. And so I was totally innocent and had no idea like what even a rated
Oh,
R
no.
movie was. And he showed that to me, and I was like 9 years old, and I was just like devastated. Um, so yeah, always been sort of like scared of that stuff. But you know, over the years, like I would watch podcasts. I saw Bob Lazar, watched his
Yeah.
documentary. Um, you know, and you're like, wow, these are, doesn't seem like crazy people. Like it seems like there's something to it, you know.
Yeah.
Always, I'm never gonna like dive in like head first. Um, so yeah, I've had some interest, but like, but this new sort of like Grush and the disclosure stuff, I don't know what to think about it. Like everything seems so crazy now, and I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older that I see that like, you know, one of the things about getting older is understanding that like all the world's most powerful people are stupid dorks. Like they're not, like that's what I feel like. I feel like what, like these are the guys that are gonna blow it wide open, and like who's in charge?
Every time.
Who's in charge? Like no, like everyone's just an idiot. Like one guy, like what, three guys maybe are hiding stuff. Like, but I don't know. I just it all seems so disappointing because it's like, show me the bodies, show me the crafts, put them in my hand, or else I'm done with this. It feels like a bit of a psyop to like keep stringing the public along.
You sound just like us, and you said you did dive head first. That's what's crazy,
No.
right? Like,
I mean, what brought you back into it? I mean, was it 2017? Was it Tom DeLonge? I mean, obviously you know Tom Blink. I mean, he's been big into this for a while now. I mean, I have my own opinions on TTSA and his company and everything. That didn't really go very well. They took a lot of money and said they were making a spaceship and just didn't do it and yoinked the money. That was bad. But was that something that kind of brought it back on your radar? Was New York Times back then?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was funny because Tom DeLonge is funny.
Yeah.
But like, it was one of those things to kind of like play with, like, oh, this is kind of entertainment. Like these guys really believe it, and well, maybe it is. I don't know. Like
Right.
watch it as entertainment. Um, it wasn't until like we started having these congressional hearings where I
Okay.
was like, wait, are they really gonna do it? Like, are we really gonna see something?
Yeah.
Um, and like I still don't know. I just don't know what is a distraction and what is reality now. It just seems the world's upside down. The
Right.
news has been psyoping us for years. And so like whatever is covered on these websites in whatever gets boosted on social media and whatever gets shared, it all feels like it could be part of some psychological operation on the public to either distract from more nefarious activity or create chaos or make us do something. And so I just don't trust any of it until you put that shit in my hands.
And
Yeah.
what would be that evidence that would make the difference? Like, would it have to be the president coming out and talking about it? Could it be a video? Could it be, hey, we're going to bring these new saucers that we've got over to a flight area or an airport, and you can come out and look at them. You can step inside. What's the level of evidence that it would take for you to go, okay, I'm in. This is real.
I mean, it would have to be like a truth and reconciliation, like trial, like where they do a massive investigation. They bring out everybody who is hiding and lying to the public for years, and it's before Congress. And like we got bipartisan support to get down to the bottom of it, and a huge report is written up, and hopefully it's better than the 9/11 commission. But like, what do you can't trust any of it, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like pick your
Like that,
poison of who you're interested in to like not trust.
it would have to be bipartisan, but they're very bipartisan on a lot of things like foreign war and stuff that doesn't. But it seems like it would be sort of, at least from what the guys are talking about, these defense contractors like Lockheed and stuff, they might have stuff or want stuff. And so those might be the special interests that are blocking and intimidating these intelligence employees that want to whistleblow and come forward. So it seems like if Congress came together and said, fuck you, Lockheed Martin, and whoever else, defense contractors, we're getting to the bottom of it, and we're going to blow your whole shit wide open, and all the IP belongs to the U.S. government, not to you. That might be, I might start to believe, I think.
Well, the interesting thing I'll have you know, Matt, is that's what they tried to do at the end of the year. The Schumer Rounds Act that they put through that was supposed to give eminent domain to the government, any of the craft that they had, and all these things, and they sliced it up, man. I mean, that bill got butchered, and we didn't get anything but a 25-year tagline to wait,
Right.
which is not even really an expiration date on it. We still don't have all the Kennedy files. We still got the last few that we want sitting out
crazy.
there. So all we did was put ourselves in a position to where they can just continue to move the line on down and hold us up on it. Yeah, it's
so crazy. Yeah,
it's a mess.
How many people are even alive from when they collected most of this stuff?
I mean, it just depends on when the crashes stopped,
Yeah.
And when that happened, whether or not you consider them crashes. Maybe we shot them down. Maybe there's things that are involved like that. I mean, I think that we do have the stuff. I think that the Tic Tac, if you heard of that event with David Fravor on the Nimitz, I think that the Tic Tac is ours. That's what I think. I think that's our technology that we've back engineered from years and years ago. I mean, I'm still waiting for someone to prove to me that we had the only few physicists in the world in the 40s and the 50s that were able to, back engineer and understand this physics. And by the way, no one ever since has ever been able to do it but them in that little room somewhere. If you can sell me on that, then I'll go ahead and say it's all our tech and what have you. But I think the Tic Tac is ours, and I think it's potentially an anti-nuclear system. It's a way to divert nukes and keep us protected, which makes me sleep better at night, Matt. I sleep better knowing we got a Tic Tac. That's awesome.
Okay. So you think we got the Tic Tac off the aliens though?
No, I think the Tic Tac was created with back engineered technology and knowledge from the physics of back engineering crafts that we've recovered, or maybe archaeological dig. I know Bob Lazar is big on that. I mean, I'm not a big Bob Lazar fan, but
recovered from intelligent life in our universe.
Yeah. Well,
So
I mean that
not interdimensional.
Well, that's the thing. That's you're getting to my question a little bit further here, but we can go to it right now. I mean, I think that when you look at all the evidence, in my opinion, the evidence that's out there, it definitely points more to that. This is probably multiple things. It's probably not just one. In my view, I think the universe is very, very old, and people on our channel are probably going to hate for me for saying this. Like, dude, you say this on like every podcast, but I'll say it for you, so you're kind of on the same page. The universe is very, very old. And I think that if you had some civilizations, you look at us, we've got the F-22 Raptor, and for our fighter jet, it's amazing. The Cybertruck's coming out. This is our technology with, however many thousands of years you want to put on us from being here. What if you had, a civilization that's a million years in advance? They were able to survive not nuclear disasters, but just natural disasters. What would they do? They'd probably fly these crafts that we see, right? These tin cans, anti-gravitic. They're moving around, and they probably send these little gray alien, quote unquote, AI drones to go around these missions, right? You would probably do that. Okay. Now, what if you were able to live billions of years ahead? Okay, what would your technology look like at that point? Well, then at that point, you'd probably want to find a way to link yourself almost to the fabric of space-time, because you wouldn't want to sit in a tin can that's going a few hundred light years at a time, because you still got to go far. So you would find a way, Matt, and I'm trying to shorten this up as much as I can, but you're trying to find a way to just, how can I just get there? I just want to be there from right here. Well, then you would have some way to attach yourself to the fabric of space-time, and almost like a string theory, move yourself and put yourself there. I am starting to wonder if astral projection is not spirituality moving your consciousness, that it's actually technology that's moving the consciousness, and we just don't have a way to describe that
Understand
yet. It looks like magic to us because these civilizations are just crazy advanced. You know what I mean?
That's one theory I had with the Tic Tac. Is like, it's almost like it to me, it's almost like it's like a laser pointer pointing into our, and someone's just moving it around.
Right.
It's like it feels like a projection. Like it like, that's one theory anyways. Like, these are somehow they're able to manifest physical things and project them into our reality. That's a theory. But I also don't think the world needs to be necessarily that old to get to super advanced tech. I mean, look at where we've come in 200 years. It's like the automobile, the airplane, the space rocket. I mean, now we're going to get to AI. Maybe that's the period that the parabolic intelligence curve just goes straight up. And maybe when civilizations that rose and kept going somewhere in the galaxy or the universe, maybe they get to a point where they can create intelligence that's super intelligent, and then their technology just takes off. And now they've solved space-time problems and gravity engines and stuff like that.
Agreed.
So like,
yes.
but what I'm saying is you don't need 1 billion years.
No.
Like, you could take us, and if we hit AGI in the next 30 years, you can't imagine where we're going to be in 100 or 200.
Right.
Like,
yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. I mean,
if we have super intelligence, we literally have like God giving us all the information from the universe for how many years? 20, 30 years? I mean, the internet's only been here for 30 or 40 years. Like, really, mass adoption, 30 years of the internet.
Yeah, I mean, that's what
that think of.
Yeah,
that's why I think, you could have civilizations that are outside of our galaxy that are able to do that. But then the other part is, I do think it could be us. Like, it could be the AI cracked gravity for us. Like, we know AI is able to go back right now and learn our physics and actually replicate our physics.
Oh, so you're talking about it's us from the future.
Well, like I say, I think it's possibly multiple things. I think that there are things in our universe that could get here, the billion year thing we talked about. But I think that also it could be us as well, an AI cracked gravity for us, and that makes us crafts. Yeah.
And what if the future is just another dimension?
Could be.
So you could travel between that dimension, the future dimension, and our dimension. And maybe they're trying to make sure that we don't blow up their dimension by nuking the world.
Yeah. And then let's be honest. I mean, the really big part of this right now you're hearing in ufology. Tucker Carlson's bringing it up. I mean, angels and demons. Everyone's talking about are angels and demons really what aliens are? I mean, what's your take on that?
I mean, I think that we have I believe in sort of the Jungian collective unconscious. Like, I think that we have, whether it's because of our evolution, something in our past, where we come from, people, like, it's weird. Like, people, when they do hallucinogens, it activates parts of the brain that are never activated, right? And they often report similar phenomena, whether they be on like DMT and they see like the elves,
Right.
or if you're on hallucinogens, I don't know if you've ever done them, you could see geometric patterns, like tons of geometric patterns, and you're like, where's that coming from? And then you go back and you see like the pyramids, you know, in like Gaza, almost at Gaza. No pyramids there, but there are pyramids of Giza, and you're like, how did they build that, and how are they so perfect? And like, you know that civilizations came before us, rose, and then fell due to natural disasters and stuff. The Graham Hancock stuff, the Younger Dryas impact theory, and those guys. So we keep finding things older and older and older, and civilizations older and older and older. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey and these places where it's like, oh, that's 10,800 years old, and we built this massive megalithic structure. Obviously, there's things in our past that's like stored in our brain, in our consciousness, in our DNA, and they're almost like memes, like you can get at them. They bubble up, you know, and I don't know if it's akin to like being seeded by some other super intelligence that like put that in us somehow, or it's like a byproduct of the DNA, or if it's just evolution, where like if you see a snake, you flinch, or a spider, you get tingles. Like, this is how we survived in trees, apparently, for millions of years, our ancestors. So like, so that's built into us now, and now it's like there's no point. Like, I don't have snakes around here. Spiders aren't like that poisonous. Like, there's no point to get freaked out, but you have this gut reaction to it. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. If it's just our ancestors who came before us, seeding that into us, or if it came from somewhere else. But all that to say, you asked about angels and demons. I think that we have a common understanding of good and evil, because we see it played out in all of our lives. We see good people and bad people, and so if you see this over and over, and then it gets encapsulated into a myth or a legend or a story, that's how morality is born, right? By looking at the binary and being like, here's evil, and then here's like some unreachable good. The evil can be Satan, and we can move towards Satan, or the unreachable good can be God, and we can move towards God. And I think that's sort of the birth of religion, because we realize that when we do things that are good, we get good results, right? And there's no depth, there's no bottom to the amount of evil that can happen. And our ancestors would have known this by like rape and pillage and slaughter. So they would have known what led to that depravity, and try to create culture where it was safe and secure, and that's what we call good. So I don't necessarily need aliens to like describe that. I think that can be described by just like human beings living for thousands of generations and developing these meme complexes around morality, and also having crazy imaginations to where like we could actually, maybe that's implanted by our ancestors, but like we could actually hear like the conscience of our ancestors say, don't do that, do this.
That's interesting.
You know, but you could also feel the pull of the evil ones in your ancestors, you know, going, serve yourself, do what you want. Yeah. So I mean, I could explain it that way. I don't need aliens to explain it, but it would make sense if things were showing up and fucking with us, that we might call them one of the two, you know, angels or demons, you know.
Have you ever had an experience? Have you ever had a sighting, a UFO sighting ever? Anything you thought was even close?
We were camping last year, and we were actually talking about it. And I looked up in the sky, and we were in like a forest and the kids were asleep and we were with some friends and we looked up and we could see like all the stars. And then suddenly like dots started appearing like over the blackness of the trees across the night sky. And they're like 1 inch apart. And there was like, we counted like 20 of them. And we're like, what the fuck is that? They're perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a satellite launch for Elon's thing.
Starlink, yeah.
Starlink, yeah. It was a Starlink satellite launch. So I thought for a second, it was like, here it is, baby. Let's go.
Now, when that happened, I'm always interested. I got to ask people this question because some people disagree with me in the sense of what your first instinct would be when you see that. Did you think to grab your phone, or did you think, if this is the real thing, I got to see this with my eyes and I'm just glued to it?
My first thing was like when I first started seeing it, then I had to tell everyone to confirm it for me. Like, are you guys seeing this?
Right, like I'm not crazy, right?
Yeah. What is that? And then I think I might have tried to grab my phone, but it was like so dark, and it literally was like a bad UFO sighting, like blurry. Like when you try to like film the moon.
Yeah.
It's just like it's always at night too, so it's like these cameras don't have good, No. So yeah, I can have a little grace for people who have spotted UFOs.
Yeah. We usually go about an hour and a half. We're about like an hour and 5 minutes. So I got a few more questions for you if you don't mind.
Sure.
And then,
no problem.
because I could talk to you about this for 5 hours, brother, but I won't keep you all night. Now in songwriting, we hear a lot about musicians, in ufology. You hear a lot of musicians talk about maybe not experiences, but like moments of intuition, sparks of intuition, almost. A lot of people call them download experiences, where all of a sudden they're thinking of a song or they want to write something and it just hits them. They don't know where it came from, but it just shows up. Have you ever had any moment like that writing any of your albums?
Yes, every album. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
can you explain a time where that happened? And could you tell me the lyrics a little bit of what you had happen with it?
God, I'm really bad with specifics. I mean, part of being a creative is being bad with specifics because
no, that's okay.
Yeah. But like every album, I'll have a moment where like a song will come out in like 5 to 10 minutes, and I am not like in control of my ego at that point. Like I'm not in control of my mind or anything. I am lost. It's sort of like people try to deduce it to things like they say flow state, but like, or they call it the muse. This entity that visits you, randomly graces you, touches you, and suddenly it almost feels like something's coming through you. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, I think, to write sometimes. Sometimes it's parts of songs, sometimes it's an entire song in like 5 minutes. And that is actually the most gratifying thing. You would think that, maybe the most gratifying thing is something I slaved away and worked on and made it perfect. No, I hate those songs. I hate the songs I have to write and rewrite and rewrite and rewrite. The most gratifying thing is when it just comes out. And when I was a kid, it happened a lot more. There was less ego in the way. There was less kind of like that default mode network in your brain, which is like the super highway that you get used to walking down it. And so you can't use the side roads anymore. When you're young, you have the side roads, and I feel like that helps you stay open to inspiration like that. And I think psychedelics and hallucinogens and stuff like that help people use the side roads too. But yeah, there is something like magic about it. Like it's hard to put into words. If it happens to you, you might have some metaphors or some terminology for it, but most of the time you're not thinking at all when it's happening, right? You're just experiencing some sort of like bliss, like, oh wow, this is coming out of me and this is really good and I really like it and I'm just more, and then you're done and you go, okay, now what do I do? Well, you got to put my producer hat on, and then your ego's back in charge. And you're like, oh, what do I got to cut out of this? And
yeah.
I mean, is that kind of a lot of what the song Lost Magic is? Are you referring to a lot of that?
Yeah, magic. That's what I said. Yeah, that
Yeah.
that song is about the magic of being young and an artist, and just how free and easy it was to create, and to be. Yeah, I think the lyric in that song is, "I had a crystal ball that used to
Yeah.
answer every call," and that was it. That's what it felt like. Like I could literally, I had a thing that I could almost wield at will. It wasn't never. It's never at will, and you can't really wield it. But when it occurs so often when you're younger, it's nice, and then you take it for granted, and then you have kids, and you have a schedule, and and then it's
Yeah.
slower and less of that, and so the job that I have, or anybody that has, who makes art, getting older, is to like maintain that whimsy and that openness. Try to go down the side roads in your brain, you know
Yeah, I mean,
because
I still think your writing is great, man. I mean, so are you still, are you referencing just how quickly it comes to you, or do you actually think that your writing has went down? I don't think. I'll be honest with you, man. I think it sounded to me in that song that you were being a little hard on yourself. No, am I getting that? Am I getting that wrong?
well,
You know?
no. I mean, if you were just to go album to album, I don't think you hear that much of a difference, as far as like I try never to phone it in. Like the problem is that I have a standard of, for like, this song is inspired, it's going on the record, and then when I have that standard, I'm just saying, like, nowadays it takes me that much longer to
Okay,
have a
I see what
song.
you're saying.
It's
Yeah,
just like it can be months and months before I get one.
right.
Whereas like when I was younger, it was like 2 weeks I got an album. Um,
Yeah.
and
I,
so
I
it's
mean, I'll
harder.
be
Yeah.
honest. I'll be honest. When I hear Lost Magic, it almost sounds like, as a compliment, it feels like Johnny Cash is reaching through you a little bit. Like it has that sense, like that song "Hurt," and it has that same kind of feeling, that writing, that raw. I mean, how can you get more raw other than and honest and vulnerable than saying, maybe I lost some of this magic. That's maybe a little bit of a Johnny Cash moment. I don't know how you take that, but
Yeah, Alone in
Well,
the City is kind of like that way too. I really
right,
like that
right,
song too,
right.
Alone in the City. I think that's, to me, it comes off as like a very like honest and like admittance of like guilt, whether we want to or not, of like the things that we do and other stuff that we take for granted. And
yeah, I mean, there's layers to that one too, because there was the sense of like loneliness and isolation in like COVID, with like lockdowns, and people were literally alone in cities, surrounded by people, but like shut into their houses. And then there's also just that feeling that you get, you know,
yeah,
alone in
changes
a
people
crowded,
too.
yeah, alone in a crowded room is a feeling that you get regardless of COVID, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the feeling of like you against the world. So there's like I like it when feelings kind of stack, when there's like multiple um, takeaways from a song, because I feel like everybody kind of takes it at whatever the most like salient, lyric, and then on like repeat listens, you might get a little bit something new and a little bit something new, depending on what you're going through too, because we sort of project our emotions on the songs too. So
Sure.
I like stacking the meaning a little bit and being like, what is it about? What is it about to you? Like, because it just makes it better to listen to more and more.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that all ties in with just getting that inspiration and just how your work progresses over time. It's always
Yeah.
interesting to see how that goes. I guess I'll end it with it on this. I mean, if disclosure came, if the government was to come out and say, "Hey, look, these are the aliens," and they were going to open the doors, how would you react to that? And how do you think the world would react? Would we be ready?
Oh yeah, the world's ready for anything now. I mean, we've been through a lot. I mean, there's always going to be crazy people. I mean, there's people that are driving around today with masks on in their cars by themselves,
Yeah, I
trying not to
know.
give
I know.
they're trying not to give themselves COVID. So yeah, there's always going to be people who are going to like take it a step too far. There's people that are just going to be traumatized by it. Sure. But like, the rest of us are ready. I mean, we went through COVID, we got it. We went through a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world, um, wars and the internet and social media and censorship, and we got it all. We had Trump in the office, and we might have him again. Like, we've had crazy stuff happen that no one ever thought would ever happen, and those of us who have survived all of that and not been deranged, I think we're ready. So I'm ready. Yeah, sure. Like, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the way I live my life, unless they're like, move or we're going to blow your house up.
Right.
Okay, fine. You got me,
Yeah.
aliens. Yeah, but like if the government's like, hey, yeah, we've got this high tech stuff, and we've been in communication, and we got some bodies, and here's the stuff, and sorry for lying to you, but we got to keep this from China. So what? Sure, great. Glad we don't have to like debate whether or not it's real anymore.
Right. Yeah, I think that's kind of how we feel too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about religions, though? How do you think religions handle it? How do you think Islam handles it? Catholicism, Judaism? I mean, does everybody just kind of just let it go? They accept it? Where do you feel that stands?
I think the people who are most likely to be deranged within all of those religions will be deranged by it. Like, we use the person protecting themselves from COVID and alone in their car as a deranged person, but like, that's a bit of a cult. That's a bit of a religion too, right? I'm wearing it because I'm a good person. Well, there's probably going to be like, jihadists that are going to take it a certain way. And there's going to be imams that come up and like spin it like this. That's God, or that's the devil, or we have to kill the infidel now because clearly, everyone's going to derange in their own little way. I mean, the people on the fringes, I think. But sure, there's always cults. There was like, what was the Hale-Bopp people? Didn't they cut all their junk off because of Halley's Comet?
Yeah. Well,
So
what was the other one?
Yeah.
Heaven's Gate too. I mean,
Heaven's
the
Gate,
Kool-Aid.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, they're just like timing up to like comets come flying by and using that to off themselves. So yes, it would be slightly deranging, but I don't think any more deranging than what we've already been through, and I think we could survive it just fine. Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest. You were way more interested in this stuff than I thought you were, which is like,
yeah, for real.
Which I'm so happy for. I'm so happy for. My goodness.
Have you ever listened to my my ex podcast co-host Nate Henry? He has a podcast called Blurry Creatures.
No,
you haven't heard of Blurry Creatures? You should listen to it.
Oh, okay. I heard the what was his Mitch Hedfield joke. He said something about Bigfoot. Maybe he's just blurry, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably where it came from. So he's a big we used to have a podcast together for a couple of years. He's a big Bigfoot and cryptozoology fan, but he's also been really following this UFO stuff, UAP stuff recently. But yeah, it's called Blurry Creatures. It's like always up there on the charts, for podcasts and stuff. I'm sure you guys would like it. It's him and it's Nate Henry and Luke Rogers. Aaron Rodgers' brother is the other co-host. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I know at the end of the day, the classic crime has always been. I think you guys have been put in the Christian band box. So to be fair with you, dude, I didn't know how you would react to any of this kind of conversation.
Oh.
I didn't know if you were going to be like, oh no, the Bible's this way, and why would you ask me this?
Yes.
They,
you never know. You never know.
Well, it's funny because because Nate, my ex podcast co-host, takes it very takes it like religion, like he integrates the Bible into it. It's like the one of those ancient giants, I forget their names, Nephilim.
Yeah,
he like that's all in the Bible, and he thinks UFOs are in the Bible. So some people really integrate their religion, but no, to the extent that we were put into a Christian band box. It was never true. We never put ourselves in that box.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yes, 3 out of 5 of us were raised in religious settings until we left home. But yeah, we never sort of like identified with that scene. We never really like fit in. We never liked any of those bands or music. We got signed to Tooth and Nail because they were like, hey, they don't cuss in their songs, so let's bring them in. And our A&R at the time was good friends with us. We lived in Seattle. He was in Seattle. So he knew us personally. He knew that like where our families came from and what kind of people we were. And I think it was a good match for the label. But like we never, like anytime anybody was like, yeah, Christian rock, right? We're like, ooh, gross, dude. Nope. No, thank you. So
yeah. I mean,
Come
your
on,
lyric.
everybody loves Creed.
Some of those songs aren't bad though.
Right. Yeah, but your lyric, if you live in, when you live in two dimensions, of course, your world is flat. That's when I went, okay, if he's talking about flat Earth, he's got to look into some of this stuff. You don't just throw out flat Earth in your lyrics if you're not looking into some kind of conspiracy stuff.
So we had a big debate on our podcast. It was called "Don't Feed the Trolls." We had a flat Earth episode where a guy was defending, and it was because Nate brought him on, and a guy was defending flat Earth.
Yeah,
and I argued with him for like an hour. And I was so mad by the end of it. I was like, dude, if you want to do this kind of like weird shit, do your own podcast. Because I'm not like arguing with flat earthers on our podcast. And then our podcast ended, and Nate went and started his own podcast, Blurry Creatures, and it's 20 times bigger than our podcast ever was because people love that shit.
People do. People do.
So I was wrong.
Well, hey man, I before we go, thank you for the 20 years you've put in, man. The blood, sweat, and tears, the roads, the long nights, man. Your music, I remember being 16, 17 years old, listening to Albatross, man, and just thinking you guys were gods, man. You guys were gods to me. And that music
awesome.
Is still awesome. And it's crazy to think, if you'd have told me, hey, at 16, 17, well, don't worry, when you're 33, you'll be on a podcast and he'll come on your podcast, you'll talk to him. Never would have believed that. Never would have believed it, man.
Yeah.
So, you're truly in my top 3 favorite songwriters of all time, easily.
Oh, wow.
I won't fangirl too much.
Who else, though, can I ask?
I mean, Ronnie Radke's up there.
Okay.
His lyrics are incredible.
That's funny. I know Ronnie.
Yeah, well, I'm like I said, I don't want to hold you too long, but he's got a UFO story. Did he ever tell you about when they were out in the desert driving back when Escape the Fate days?
I keep forgetting about that story.
No.
Okay, it's really short. You can ask him about it because he'll tell you. I'd love to talk to him because of this experience. But he said when they were driving out in the Las Vegas desert, coming back from a show, I think from California, that him and Max were in the car. Max, I'm blanking on his last name right now, but the old bassist for Escape the Fate, Max Green, sorry. And they were driving in their car in the middle of the desert, dark. This ball of light comes in the front of the car as they're driving, circles the whole car, and then shoots off. And this was years ago. I remember in an interview they had, they talked about the story. And I was thinking, man, oh man, I wonder if he's got any other experiences at all, because there's, like I said before,
yeah.
There's so many musicians like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always in the desert. That's when
something out there. There's something out in the desert. But no, thank you so much for your work, man. Thank you for coming on and showing some support. And I wish if we had our podcast started in March, we would have had you on earlier about this album. And we were pushing out there.
I'm happy to talk about it, anytime. So thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, before you go, plug it all out there. I mean, I'm going to throw your website, your YouTube, everything in the description.
Whatever merch and stuff that you have, websites.
Yeah, we got merch. We got vinyl at classiccrime.com. I also have vinyl and stuff at vocalfew.com, which is my side project with my wife. Nothing really on the books right now. I'm actually going on vacation next week, so I'll be back probably trying to write some tunes. Early spring. So
we'll be watching it, and if you get around tour, we're in Michigan, man. So we'd love to come and see you, man. It's been a long time since I've been able to see you guys, so it'd be excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, all right. Well, have a great night. Thank you, everybody, for watching Terrestrial Material. Please do like, share, subscribe. As Matt also knows, the algorithm loves it. We got to feed it. So it definitely helps out.
Feed the beast, baby.
Without a doubt. But whenever you guys are watching this, have a great night. Have a great weekend wherever you're at. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you next time.